Hello, my name is Eric. I'm a software engineer, and today I'm going to be doing a code along on my current project, the Kanban task tracker. Uh, Nothing pre-programmed here. We're going to look at a feature we need to implement, and we're going to work through the process of getting that all set up. So, we've got a lot going on here. We've got a number of features already implemented with our state updating correctly, checking off subtasks on this. We can add new tasks to our board with subtasks. We can remove subtasks from here. We can create our task. Here it is. Excellent. We can also delete a task. So at the moment, I don't have any sort of pop-up warning notifying the user. Let's close that. Notifying the user that we have that you're deleting a task, and to give you a final confirmation that it should be that we should proceed with this. So I do have, at least I think I do already have a, yeah, there it is, delete modal set up. So I did go through the process of just making a static modal for this, and I'm working through this challenge. This is a front-end mentor challenge, so I have a Figma file that shows me how everything should look, and the delete modal looks the same on both. There's two pieces of functionality that this delete modal is going to cover. Number one, it's going to cover deleting a task, and number two, it's going to cover deleting a board. Today I'm just going to work through deleting the task and having that pop up, and having it show up for us to give us a final confirmation of, do you want to delete this thing? But it's the same modal, it just has some different information inside of it. So let me actually see, let's take a look at this thing. How do I want to actually set this up? I can mess up my entire thing. Let's see if I can just bring delete modal in here. Delete modal. Let's see what it looks like if I just pop it on top, if it's going to show up for me at all. Yeah. We've got, let's hide the sidebar. There we go. So that's what this looks like. We're going to need this thing to show up above everything. We're going to need this thing to have a background that darkens the rest of the screen around it, so it prevents any other clicks. We'll want kind of like a cancellation by clicking on the background, or by clicking on the cancel button, and then delete's going to be our actual, yes, I do want to delete this thing. So right now I just have this set up with some static text in here, right? Delete this board, question mark, is our title on the top. Oops, a little bit. And are you sure you want to delete platform launch board? The only things that change here are, do you want to delete this board will become task if we're deleting a task, I think, is the only update, and the title and the information that's here. So instead of this saying just delete all, delete platform launch will delete all columns and tasks, let's word wrap this thing. I think it's going to say something like, this will delete the task and cannot be undone. Let's go look at what we've actually got here. Oh, cool. That's fun. So is this, whoops, is this just not going to work for me then? Can I not get into Figma to look at my, yeah, that's, all right, cool. No matter. We're just going to work with it, what we got, and I can check later and make some updates. But we're going to do a couple things here, and I just want to plan out what my functionality is going to be. So we know we need our heading to be dynamic based on what we are deleting. Ooh. Information in body should update. Things are a little bit laggy on my end, trying to record, screen record at a higher resolution, so things actually are clear to watch in a video format. So we'll deal with that. And we need a background on this thing to cancel. Cancel button will cancel. And delete button proceeds with action. So what I'm thinking about doing here, since I already have the functionality set up to delete a task, which we can look at that in a second too, so I can refresh my memory on what I set up, which really this is sending the task index in the array within that column, within that board, and then we're using immer to just update the gigantic nested state and pass back the update. So if I delete, I really shouldn't need to change the function as it's working already. What I'll do is I'll make another function within the delete this board, or excuse me, the delete modal, where my general concept now is like, we'll click the delete button, the delete function will update to call out to delete modal, and basically to say like, all right, activate delete modal, and pass in some information about what we're deleting to update our information, our text, and then delete modal is just going to pass back a true or false value. If the user clicks on the delete button, it's going to be a true value, and we'll use that to proceed with deleting. If it comes back false, then we cancel the operation and we break out of that function. So we'll make some notes here where we just kind of say like primary function should return true, true, false to delete function to proceed with operation. So we'll go through the actual steps of that kind of as we get closer to implementation. So I guess let's get some of the easier stuff out of the way first, and I think what we'll do is we'll start with, rather than this just deleting immediately, I guess we'll have it open up the modal so that it is on top of everything else, and we can say yes or no to this thing and have it, well, disappear. So where do I want this to actually fully live? I haven't really thought about it yet. I mean, in board view or board list, where does my add task, add column is there. So let's see, delete my task view card has the remove task functionality, right? And I guess technically I could have this modal pop up and live here. That way it would be easy enough for every task to pass this data through, because it'll already live in the task. We also have the board, right? So I mean, I guess it really just depends on how many props I want to send down. If I were to have this live at the app level, let's say, right, I could have it just live here and send down the functions that we handle within delete board, but it would be a little more complex, I think, to pass the data in that we need to update the title and the description. So I think, at least for right now, let's plan this out to just be in the task view card, because this is kind of my hierarchy of things anyway. I've got the main app, which we have typically not delete modal there, but we have our sidebar and our nav bar in our main app component, as well as we map through the boards, and we have board view, which is just the big square area that has all the tasks within it. And then we drill down within board view, we have columns, and we have task modal, which is the add task form. And in each column, we pass down all of our information, and we have the task preview cards, which are these in the background, and then each task preview card contains the task view card. So we pass down basically through mapping all of our data. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put this here. I think this will just make sense and will make some of this a little bit easier for us. So before I even go too far with this, let's just start by passing in the data so we can update, delete this whatever, and then fill this in. Because even if I reuse this modal somewhere else, like delete board, and have it live there, I can still set this up to pass in the same props, right? So it's not really a big deal for the component to live in two different places in this application. Maybe we clean that up at a later date, depending on how everything's working, and we shift some things around. But just to get our functionality, we'll start here. So let's do. We've got a lot of stuff going on here. We're already using use state. Let's do a thing here so we can. Let's set some state up just so we can see this delete board modal. So we will do delete board modal state, and I'll just say functions here right now. So we'll have const. I'll do show delete modal, just so it's clear. It's very long, but whatever. Set show. You know what? I could just do delete modal. We don't need show. Delete modal set. So set is always kind of my default, but I can just call this show delete modal. But like that's going to be confusing because the set is our setter function, right? So set show. Doing it again. Set delete modal. And we'll do that as a use state, and we'll default that to false. Sick. So we've got that all set up, and now we can actually, we'll do this within our fragment. We'll bring in delete modal, which right now doesn't accept any props. So what's this going to look like if I open one of these up now? Oh, okay, you see it behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one that we just brought into app, and I can get rid of this, and that rocks. So right now it's just going to be always active, which is fine. Let's go in here, and we're going to do a ternary operator for this, where we're going to say, we said it's, we called it delete modal. If delete modal is true, then we're going to have delete modal render, otherwise null, and that's that. So right now that goes away because it's defaulted to false, and we need something to actually show us this thing first, right? So what we're going to do is we have this remove task function that's being called. When we click the delete button, I'm going to just comment out what's actually happening for now, and we're just going to do set delete modal. We're going to put that as true, because when I click on that button, I want delete modal to show up. So that's just our start. There it is. Cool. Awesome. But we're going to have to do some CSS work and stuff to make this, well, I already have myself in a good situation because I have a modal utility class that should allow us just to put this thing right front and center, which we'll go look at right now. Why not? So got delete modal here, which has right now just a class of theme, so I can handle my theme changing. We'll throw modal on top of that. If we go look at the CSS, which I'll put to the bottom, please. We scroll down through here. I've got a number of utility classes that I set up primarily for things like heading, different font sizes and things, buttons, And then I do have modal, which we just added, which gives it a position fixed, top 50, left 50, translate negative 50, negative 50, which is just a way to center this on whatever our screen is. I don't know what the z-index of this thing, is going to look like yet. So let's just see what happens. Cool, it's on top. I like that. And these are buttons, but they're not doing anything yet. The color on this is wrong, but I'm not concerned about that right now. The other thing we have is I want that background that's going to allow us to dismiss or dismiss and cancel. In this case, we're going to do the same thing, but I want the option to click on the background because I think that's just kind of standard usability at this point, right? Most things with a modal pop-up allow you to click outside of it to close it, and that's what's going on with everything else in this application. So let's do the same thing here. Let's drop the CSS down. I already have this going on in a bunch of other things. So like task view card has our modal background. So here I have a ID modal background, and this you can see click set visible handles the visibility of task view card. So let's just do the same thing in our delete modal. So I'll also just throw this right on top. Let's just see what happens when it's going to freak out because of my function. That's okay. Let's just get rid of the function for a minute. And I need a bracket there, thank you. Ooh, the laggy. Ooh, the lagginess is really getting to me. Oh, now that I have two different things here, I need to do a fragment. So we'll do that. Great. You're going to see me adjust this to dark mode every single time because I haven't set up any kind of local storage to track the user's last used theme, but I will do that eventually. So here's our modal with our background here on task view card popping up. I do delete task. It gets a little bit darker. I don't think that's a problem. I'm just going to kind of leave that because I do want the ability to click now on that darker area and dismiss our modal. So we have it in task view card is where right now we have the delete modal state. So we'll pass in delete modal and I'll pass in the setter. Now I'm using TypeScript, so in order to actually do these things, I don't need CSS now since we see it working well. In order to pass these in with TypeScript, I need to actually put some types on here. My prop types, type props equals. We've got our delete modal, which is going to be a Boolean. And if I can type without all the lag and issues, delete modal, Boolean. We've got set delete modal, and I don't know how to type this thing out because it's going to be a React thing, like React dispatch, so we'll just go here, highlight delete modal. Let's just copy this whole thing and we'll paste it in to delete modal. Now I've got extra stuff here that I can just get rid of, silly me. Cool, that's there. Now I can bring my props in. Delete modal and set delete modal, and these are of type props. You're gonna just, okay, it's just taking a minute because of all the lag, so that's great. This is what I was afraid of with doing the screen recording, but it's okay, we're working through it. And now with our modal background, we'll set an on click here, and we'll call, we'll just do a direct call here to, or a anonymous function, and we'll do our set delete modal. Not going to give me my autofill, too slow. And we'll set that to false. It doesn't need, I don't need to do like the opposite of delete modal. So I guess technically I don't need delete modal in here at all, because I'm not going to use it, I guess. I'm just in the habit of passing both in, but we've got our functionality. We can do our cancel button as well. That's going to do the exact same thing, which I guess I could, instead of doing two different anonymous functions, we can make one function to close this, which we're probably going to do anyway, right? Because maybe, because when we hit OK, it's also going to close the modal. But there we go. That clicking out of it and clicking cancel is closing our modal. So for right now, that's good enough. I guess I'll get rid of delete modal because it doesn't matter. I guess I don't need it. And we'll go get rid of it from here too. We don't need it as a prop. If we end up needing it for some reason, we'll pass it back in. I just don't want to forget about it and have extra stuff. Cool. So that's easy enough. We can get rid of this here, and all we have is select deep modal so far coming through. Now we're going to do some of this stuff, right? So since this is I guess we can do this in a couple different ways, right? Delete this board, delete this task. We can send down a prop that just tells this particular heading what this value is going to be, right? So like we could change this thing and say, put this around some brackets so we can and make this a template literal, and we could say, do we want to delete this? You know, what do we call this? What would be a good variable name to say if it's board or task? Item, I guess for now is fine. We'll pass in item, which will just be a string. We'll destructure that and say item. And up top, task view card, we now have an item prop we need to pass down, which item in our case here is going to be a task, string task. So now when we reuse this somewhere else to delete a board, item will be passed in as board in that particular case. So that will solve that for us. So now if we click this, it should say delete this task, and it does. That's excellent. Cool. And now we have all this stuff. You want to delete platform launch board, just blah, 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 blah. So I can't check Figma to see what the actual description here is supposed to say. So I guess for right now, let's try to plan out how this can be reused. Are you sure you want to delete the platform launch task, right? We already are passing task in, so it can be task title and then item. Are you sure to delete this task title item? It's actually remove all. I think this also will say task data and subtasks or something like that. It's a real bummer that I can't look at Figma right now, but whatever. Let's just kind of get this looking the way it's supposed to look. So let's pass in. We're really passing in the task string, and within task view card, I already have all the task information here. So I just want to pass in task.title. So we'll just call it title, board title, task title, whatever it is. It's going to be a title for us. And in this case, it's task.title. We'll pass that through. Yes, that's TypeScript giving me my dot notation on my types, which is cool. And we're going to do call it title, which is a string in our case. And we're going to put my title there. Are you sure? So let's do the same thing here. We made this brackets and a template literal. Are you sure you want to delete the? We'll change this. And we'll say title. I change board to item. So then we'll have are you sure you want to delete this, whatever title, whatever item? So in this case, build UI for search task. That's kind of funky. Let's put that in quotations. Build UI for search, quote unquote, task. Cool, that looks better. This action will remove all columns and tasks and cannot be reversed. So I guess, what can I do here? I don't think I need to send this in as a prop because it's either going to say columns and tasks or it's going to say task data and subtasks. I don't know. We'll do that. Let's say, can I do this here? Can I do like if let's say if item is equal to task, then we're going to return let's say task data and subtasks. Otherwise, it's going to be columns and tasks. And I don't need to do all of this. That can come out. And we'll do this right there. Is it going to work for me? Okay, cool. This action will remove all task data and subtasks and cannot be reversed. Otherwise, let's just do a quick test, because if our item is not task and our item is board, then it gets everything else for us. And delete this board. Are you sure you want to delete this, whatever title, board? This action will remove all columns and tasks and cannot be reversed. Sick, awesome. So now we've got some reusability there just by passing in, a prop or two, and that's all set up for us. We've got our disappear, reappear nonsense, and now we got to work on our delete function, which is really the meat of what we're doing with this particular thing. Okay, so what is this going to do for us? We need to work on our delete functionality. So we previously had remove task function, which all it was doing was setting delete modal to true. I'm going to get rid of that completely. And I'm going to, on the delete task button that pops up right over here, we're just going to call an anonymous function here that does the same thing. What do we call this? How do we make this delete modal true? Delete modal, set delete modal is true. So now all that's doing is that's going to open that modal for us and do nothing else. And we will set this function to actually remove the task. We'll pass this through to the modal so that when we click the delete button, it'll activate this function and run the rest of this, which we don't really need to do a whole lot here, do we? Right? So I can just, I guess, uncomment out the stuff that I had here before and just pass remove task through, right? You can pass remove task function, and let's go set that up as a prop on the other side. So it's copy, this is a void function. We'll prop that right in there. We can get rid of our let, and we can bring in remove task in our props. Cool. And then we can just click on this delete button. On click, we can just call remove task. Nothing has to be sent back like I was thinking about before. This is a lot more simplistic. So delete task is just going to delete task. Let's open up one of these, and if we click delete task here, it's just going to open that modal. Clicking on the background is just going to make it go away. Clicking on cancel is just going to make it go away. clicking on delete task, we'll delete our task. Let's delete this one down here because it's more obvious. Delete task. Yeah, look at all that fun stuff in there. Delete task. Cool. That was fun, and that worked out very well for us. And didn't have to do any of that return stuff I was thinking previously. This ended up being a little more simplistic. So this has been a fun video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching some of the process. Sorry about the extreme lag going on here. And maybe we'll do another one of these in the future. Thanks for watching.